Welcome to Agronomy Moment. I'm your host, Wendell Cohen. We bring in people who agree with me, disagree with me, and above all, are not afraid to say it like it is.
All right, everyone, we're going to talk about liberty. We were just talking about corn just a little bit ago and the nitrogen, and now let's talk about soybeans and kind of what we're looking at as we go forward from here. I'm going to turn it over to Selena to talk about some really best practices, good practices that we can do with the liberty application, some important things to remember. But before we do, I just wanted to mention to this so that we can understand the why behind. Glufosinate works best, which is liberty, works best or has the least amount of failures is when it can translocate through the weeds phloem from the leaf to its growing point, and there it can interact with the glutamine synthetase. So what that means for us is the better the growing conditions, the better the weather for what you think a plant needs to really do well and grow fast in is liberty killing weather. And so the more that we can think about what our crops really like is also the good time to spray those weeds because they really like it as well. So talk to us a little bit, Selena, about how I guess maybe you can just talk to us a little bit about what those conditions are, and then we'll talk about what we also can do with our sprayer and the tank mix and how we can make sure we're setting ourselves up for success there. But let's talk about conditions first. Let's talk about what that weather looks like.
Yep, so this.
Right here, right now, I'm sweating in 80 degrees.
Yeah, so high humidity, starting to get a little heat. So the three things I think about are sun, heat, and humidity as the top three things. And I guess one could probably make the argument for water volume, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Yep.
So the sun, and obviously the top three things that I talked about are very important for that liberty application to make sure that we're getting the most efficacy that we can out of that herbicide and how that moves, or how that kills and helps the weeds kill the weeds.
Yes.
So thinking about the pigweed species, for example, the weather that we have today, pigweeds can grow up to 3 inches in a day. So really trying to focus in on, okay, we're maybe getting a little bit later and pushed back with that post-application down here in this part of the world,
yes,
than maybe where we would ideally like to be. So just being on top of that, killing or targeting, trying to kill those weeds whenever they are the smallest or haven't even emerged is the best plan of action.
correct,
especially with a contact herbicide. Yep. Because we can get, if we don't get good coverage with liberty, for example, then we can have regrowth from the points that maybe didn't get killed. So making sure that we have that water volume, that we're spraying no less than 15 gallons to an acre with liberty to help with that coverage of that herbicide on those weeds to help with the efficacy.
Yes. And then what, did you mention the 3 pounds of AMS?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Make sure, like in temperatures up to what? It's 90 degrees at least to throw that 3 pounds of AMS per acre, spike that.
Yep.
It helps spike that chemical process that takes place in the plant, in the weed. And did we ever think about the number? We didn't really come to an arrival on a number, but I'm going to kind of go out on a limb just a little bit here and suggest that, when temperatures are 70 some degrees plus,
yep,
and humidity levels are at least 50 degrees plus. I'm going to kind of go with that 120. You can add the two together and get 120. I'm kind of going down that road thinking at least 70 degrees and at least 50% humidity. If those two equal 120, I'm going to have to check the documents, and I can put a blooper sign up in the video if this was one. But what we're looking for is the higher the temperatures, the better, and the higher humidities, the better. But if you have hotter temperatures, sometimes they can overcome some of that little bit lower humidity, but you got to be careful because then we can talk about soil conditions, and drought stressed weeds are not going to have the ability, right? The stoma is not open for business. They're not able to carry that glufosinate through its system to get to the growing point.
Yeah. And there was something else I was going to say along the lines
of the drought conditions, or
I don't know, it left me. Escaped me.
Well, we'll just put some crickets in your head until we come back to it.
It sparked my mind on
AMS, 3 pounds of AMS.
no, you hit that. That was good. Gosh dang it.
Too wet, too dry, too cold, too hot, too windy.
Gosh dang it, I can't remember, but we can hit on the grass.
Okay. Don't forget the grass.
Yeah, don't forget the grass.
What do we need for that?
Yeah, so colethanum is a really good take mix partner with Liberty. That's probably actually my favorite. Recommendation is colethanum to help with those grasses, and then also a glyphosate can work well. Also, just sometimes seeing a little bit of antagonism there, but it still does a pretty good job. So yeah, just if you do have some grasses out there, make sure that we're throwing something in the take mix to help with that.
Okay. We need to remember that. I think fall panicum, for example, is becoming a bigger issue sooner. I mean, this is a whole different topic. I don't want to get down in there and get axle wrapped on that, but I will say is that fall panicum could be someday an issue in Roundup, and so hitting them with colethanum even gives you a different mode of action if you're using Roundup and Roundup Ready corn.
Yeah,
so.
that's a good idea.
All right, guys, unless you have anything to add to this, I'm going to wrap this up, and we're going to call this good for this time. Thank you. See you on the next one.